Welcome to the Jaybe Show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this Sunday afternoon. As usual, just to let you guys know that you can find me on the Jaybe Show every single Sunday, and you can find me on the Savvy and Jaybe Show on Thursdays here on Revolutionary Blackout Network. If you guys have not already, you guys can actually go to our Substack at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com so you guys can get those email notifications of whenever clips or live streams are available, so you guys can go to there as well. If you guys would like to, you guys can also inquire about any stories or any questions that you may have. Please, serious inquiries only. If you guys would like to, you guys can go to info@revblacknetwork.com to email us as well. And if you would like to, you can also go to our website to find out a little bit more about us at revolutionaryblackouttnetwork.com. That gives you all the tea, as it were, as to what we are doing. So thank you so very much as well. So while that being said, I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody that is watching this morning. Also, I want to give shouts out to a couple of channels. I want to give a shout out to Heartlands Media. Heartlands Media has reached 50,000 subs. Shout out to Kit and Daniel of Heartlands Media. They've been working very hard, especially since the debacle that happened earlier this year. They pushed through that, and they are coming back better than ever. Big congratulations to Heartlands Media for their win of getting 50,000 subs. And then also a big congratulations to Danny Haifong for his 200,000 subscribers on his channel as well. I know Danny's right now in China. He's probably just busy doing the work that he typically does in China, as far as his commentary and his activism work. So big shouts out to Danny Haifong as well in China. So yeah, a lot of people are reaching some milestones today, so it's actually pretty exciting to see. While we're at it, we're going to say hello to a few people that's inside the chat. Hello to everybody that's on Facebook, YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble. So good to see you here joining me for this Sunday afternoon to talk about these relevant topics. We're going to get into it. We have Sean Brock coming in first off saying, maintain revolutionary optimism. The establishment is panicking. They can't wage war against the world and their own citizens. We are inevitable. Kind of sounds like Thanos a little bit, right? I am inevitable, Oh gosh, the nerdy side of me is coming out, but yes. Sean Brock also says it's obvious that their propaganda is losing efficacy by the day. All this TikTok ban and internet censorship and activism policing is doing is making it more clear to more and more people. Absolutely. I definitely agree. There's a lot that is being revealed. The masks are coming off, as we can see. Landrew says, Sean Brock, I love how you think. See, the love is spreading. It is so lovely to see. Good to see you also in here, Landrew. We have H. Lokil says the U.S. is becoming more and more. Yes. It's actually interesting that you mentioned that, because let me see if I can get the book here. Yep. So if you guys don't notice, on my channel, I do a little bit of reading. And one of the books that I read, and this is more exclusively on Rockfin, is I read Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. If you guys want to, you guys can go to my channel on Rockfin and, listen to the reading for that. But one of the things that George Jackson actually brought out, and George Jackson was actually part of the Black Panther Party too. He was a Black revolutionary. One of the things he brought out in his book was back in the late 60s, early 70s. He said fascism was already here. If George Jackson thought that fascism was already here 50, almost 60 years ago, what do we have now? I think that's important. mean, that's important to keep in mind. Wise words from George Jackson. But thank you very much for that as well. We have VS Adams coming in saying, hiya, Jay. Hiya, VS Adams. Good to see you in here as well. All right. We have Yo Mama So Yo Mama So Fat. Says, I wish China and Russia would come liberate us. Look, I'm telling you right now, maybe they might end up just spreading some democracy. I don't know. Flip it back on the United States, as it were. There's a lot more freedom there. Freedom to not have to go homeless. Freedom to have universal health care. Yeah. Let's take a look at Myra Page saying, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Myra. Kamadra Meadows says, congrats on the 50. Oh, that's the 50,000 followers on Twitter. I don't have that many subs, but yes, I reached 50,000 Twitter followers. So thank you very much for that, Roger. Casey coming in saying solidarity and fire. Good to see you in here. Terry Connolly coming in saying peace. Afternoon. Good to see you, Terry. All right. Yep. All right. We have People Unite says different stages of fascism. Yes. I think we're in a later stage, but I agree. People Unite. Thank you so very much for that as well. ACAB includes ICE and Border Patrol, who is also a RBN channel member, says, hello, everyone. Good to see you also. Nice to have you in here. Casey, I look sharp. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. It's Sunday. You got to sometimes come in your Sunday best. Melissa Brooke DeHart says, JB, glad I'm catching the live today. Yes, it is good to have you in here as well. Nice to see you in here, Melissa. Thank you so very much as well. Now, just checking into Rockfin. Yes, we have some Rockfin chats as well. Going to get into that as well to say my hello to the Rockfin peeps. If you're watching Humble, go ahead and give your shouts outs and your hellos. Reason being is because I can actually see the Rumble here in StreamYard. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also comment there. I'll be able to see it too. So Anna Mayer says, good morning. They wouldn't need to censor so much if we weren't waking up to their lives. I think that's what you meant. They wouldn't need to censor so much if we weren't waking up to their lives. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree, Anna. Good to see you also in the chat as well. See, the truth says only proves how deceitful evil by the core Palestine cause is. Wait, huh? Only proves how deceitful evil by the core Palestine cause is. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? I'm not reading. Am I reading that kind of like wonky? Can you explain just for a second? Okay. Anyway, let's continue. So now, what are we talking about today? There's a couple of subjects that I wanted to touch on today. Two different stories that I wanted to get to. So, Florida cuts off disabled kids, and then Columbia students ignite more college protests nationally. We're going to be talking about these two stories, and you're going to see why Ron DeSantis is there. Because Ron DeSantis, I like to call him Florida man. I live in Orlando, so I think I have that right. I call him Florida man. So we're going to talk about that. And then later in the show, we're going to be talking about the protests that happened at Columbia University, and now it is igniting more protests nationally and maybe even internationally. Ron DeSantis don't care about your kids. And by extension, Florida, the government of Florida, don't care about your kids either. Why do I say that? Since the ending of the pandemic, we had certain protections that were in place, especially in regards to our healthcare. These protections were to increase the amount of Medicaid that is being given, especially to children within the state, because of the pandemic. But now that pandemic era protections have sundown, essentially, guess what else is sundowning? Kids' healthcare in this state. Let's go to the article really quick because I think this is very important. A lot of people aren't talking about it as much because of what's going on in Gaza. A lot of people talking about foreign policy, but we also have to keep in mind what's going on here domestically. Let me increase the size of this so that you guys can see it all. This is out of your Orlando Sentinel. Some of Florida's sickest kids are losing Medicaid coverage on Easter Sunday. This was a few weeks ago. Remember, everybody, Easter wasn't that long ago. So now, a whole bunch of more kids don't have medical coverage. Let's get into the details. The blurb says advocates for the family scrambled to tell parents how to appeal loss of coverage before it's too late. Now, this talks about Caitlin Marin. And she says she found out her son lost his Medicaid coverage by chance at a routine doctor's appointment. It says her son's physical therapist told Port St. Lucie resident last week that his coverage will expire Sunday, his 10th birthday and Easter this year. Since then, she's been scrambling to make sure that doesn't happen. Says her son Rylan was born with a complex health issues intensified by traumatic brain injury as a toddler. He is immune deficient and relies on a wheelchair, feeding tube, special formula, regular doctor visits, and around-the-clock care. His medical costs are so expensive that even a day without coverage could cost Marin hundreds or thousands of dollars. She missed 2 days of work this week to sort out her son's coverage and file an appeal. Because she filed before Sunday, he's entitled to continuous coverage while the appeal is being heard. She says she never saw any communication with the state telling her she could appeal or even that her son's coverage was up for renewal. So, it says Florida has dropped over 1.3 million people, including 460,000 children from its state Medicaid program since April 1st of 2023. After the end of the pandemic era policy that banned states from removing ineligible participants from health insurance programs for disabled and low income people. I'm telling you this right now. They don't care about you. They don't care about your kids. They don't care about your kids if their kids are sick. And people will say, well, if the parents make enough money, they should be able to afford insurance. These qualifications, this criteria is outdated. How many of you can actually legitimately afford it and be able to save money? You can't. How many of y'all are struggling just to buy food right now? And yet now you also got to worry about your kid not having any medical coverage. And yeah, we can talk about the extreme cases, but what about if your kid has asthma or allergies? Like, how much are you going to pay for your kid's EpiPen? What about their inhaler, their albuterol, right? What if your kid's a type 1 diabetic? And we're talking about not just little kids, but kids all the way up to age 17. And yet, well, if you're not eligible, well, then you don't get coverage anymore. Why? Because you don't make enough. Or you, in a sense, make too much, but you don't make enough to afford good private insurance. Let's continue. It says this month, the state began removing children like Rylan with complex chronic conditions. Eligibility reviews for that group were delayed until now, though there have been one-off instances over the past year where kids were mistakenly removed despite falling into that category. I just want to stop here for a second. Why are we even allowing for one-off instances for kids to be considered ineligible? Why should we even have eligibility for kids in this country to have health care? Does that sound right to you? Does that sound ethical to you? That some kids should get health care and some kids should not, based on whether their parents can afford it or not? Does that sound right to you? Should health care for children even be means tested? Should it? These kids, it is not their fault that they were born to parents that were poor or born to parents that were working class where they make too much to afford Medicaid, but they don't make enough to afford private insurance. It is not their fault. So why in the hell are we punishing them by paywalling their health care? Does that make sense to you? Is that ethical to you? I don't see Ron DeSantis fighting for this. I don't see Ron DeSantis saying, well, we just need to give every kid health care. No, he's not about to do that. Because as a result, local nonprofits have seen a huge uptick over the past 2 weeks calls from panicked parents of Florida kids with cancer, developmental disorders, and other serious conditions, says Miriam Harmatz, founder of the nonprofit Florida Health Justice Project. Most of these children are set to lose coverage on Sunday. Quote, it has to be addressed urgently. For many of these children, if they don't get ongoing coverage, they're going to be hospitalized or face serious risk of terrible outcomes. If you think this is bad now, just wait till the parents have to file for bankruptcy because they can't afford their kids' hospital bills. Because instead of doing preventative care or medicine that maintains their health, once the kid's health diminishes even further and it becomes an emergency situation, then it's going to add more burden to the parents. It's going to add more injury to the insult. Let's continue. Now, Harmatza says that the parents can file an appeal. But hang on. Should the parents even have to? I argue that parents shouldn't even have to enroll their kids. Boy, I'm telling you, man. Wow. It says the state has contended throughout this process. They have sent ample notices via phone, email, mail, and online My Access accounts to families whose coverage is up for renewal. Families should have received notice 45 days before renewal date with instructions on how to renew. I'm going to stop it right there. As somebody that lives in Florida, the Department of Children and Families, they get on my nerves because the Department of Children and Families will send you a notice. Look, Medicaid and food stamp recipient here. They'll send you a notice. Oh, well, you need to renew, or we're going to have to call you for a telephone interview to see if you're still eligible for your Medicaid or your food stamps. And they'll send it, and you'll get the letter of notice maybe 1-2 days right before that you need to have it in by. And it's like, wait a minute, you guys wanted me to send this documentation in, but I got the letter almost the day of the deadline. Like, what? And so this is what happens here in Florida. And part of me was thinking, is this just a bureaucratic error? And part of me is thinking, no, this is on purpose because they want you to not meet the deadline so they can take you off the rolls, so that they can save more money because they're fiscally conservative, because they don't want more people on the rolls. This is why they want to get rid of Medicaid. This is why they want to get rid of all these social programs that actually help the poor people, because they don't really want it to be around for people like you and me. They want to say, well, no, you fend for yourself in this capitalist system. And if your kid kicks the bucket, oh, well, I guess you should have been more successful. I guess you should have pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. That's the thought. That is the mindset of people like Ron DeSantis and his god-awful regime. Like, what? Are you kidding me right now? Harmad said, the bottom line is there should be no gap in coverage. As the state has continued throughout this process, they have sent ample notices. Now, which I say that's a load of BS, because even though they did send it out, it's typically right before the deadlines. That's what Florida does. Or they'll say they sent it out, but then there's somebody dropped the ball. It says in an October presentation to Florida legislative officials from DCF and AHCA said that kids with complex chronic conditions would get a specialized processing team and extra outreach efforts during this year-long winding period. DCF and AHCA officials did not immediately respond to questions. Of course they didn't, because, well, yeah. It says children in Florida have, without a doubt, lost coverage due to paperwork snafus. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra said in an interview Wednesday with the Sentinel. Becerra previously sent a letter to DeSantis and 8 other governors expressing concern about their large number of children who had lost coverage due to red tape. It says about 57% of the people in Florida taken off Medicaid over the last year were removed for procedural reasons, such as not returning a renewal form or incorrectly filling it out, according to nonprofit policy analysis group KFF. How many people who are actually eligible were sent the notices too late and they didn't meet the deadline? Is that their fault, or is that the state of Florida's fault? Man, I tell you. Whew. Florida. Says Health and Human Services finalized rules on Wednesday to aim to keep kids enrolled, but they will take a full year to be fully implemented. Now, here's where some people who are apologists for this system, this is what some of them will say. It says Florida's Children's Health Insurance Program, Kid Care, offers free, subsidized, and full pay insurance for kids whose parents who make too much money to qualify for Medicaid. When children lose Medicaid coverage, your application is supposed to automatically be forwarded to Kid Care for review. But as Florida's Medicaid enrollment of children has shrunk by 460,000, Kid Care enrollment only increased by about 55,000 last year. It is unclear whether many of the youths who lost Medicaid now have other insurance. Says a state effort to expand Kid Care to higher income families, predicted to expand coverage to over 42,000 uninsured kids, was supposed to take effect on January 1st under law passed by the legislature last year. And this is the horrible part. Florida is just one of 12 states that lock out children if their families don't pay premiums, a practice banned by the Fed's new rules issued Wednesday. So if you have Kid Care, you have to pay these premiums, right? If you can barely pay for food, then what makes you think you can pay for healthcare? And that's one of the things that's happening here. Let me share this with you guys too. This came out about 6 months ago. Just so that we humanize the people that are being left behind. I want to share this.
When the pandemic hit this country, Congress took action to prevent states from removing Americans from Medicaid coverage. But with the end of the pandemic health emergency, states have now begun that process of clearing their rolls of people who aren't eligible to stay on the program. But as Rachel Scott reports, millions of Americans are mistakenly being removed despite still being eligible. She takes a look at the families caught in the middle in our series, Through the Cracks.
For 5-year-old Penelope, appointments like these have become all too familiar. At such a young age, she's had more visits to the hospital than birthdays, never going longer than a few weeks without sitting in an exam room.
So my understanding is that she's here because she's having staring episodes and they've been seizures in the past, and we wanted to confirm is she still having seizures or not. Is that correct? Right, and then she's scheduled for 48 hours.
Her mother, Jillian, there by her side, longing for the day this won't be their reality.
You're doing so good.
Penelope was born with classic galactosemia, a rare genetic metabolic disorder that can cause lifelong health complications.
I would spend every dollar if I had to make sure she was okay, because she's just such a fighter.
You're being so good today.
For this family in South Florida, Medicaid is their lifeline, reducing the cost of Penelope's medications.
This first medication she takes for seizures. This is about $1,000.
But in the first week of...
Did you hear that? One medication, $1,000. As somebody that deals with a chronic illness, I recently, a few weeks ago, have started the process in trying to get on the list for a kidney transplant. One of the things that was conveyed to me is that with insurance, the anti-rejection medication that you need post-transplant costs $200 to $500 per month with insurance. How do you expect transplant patients to survive when you have to pay that much just for your meds? That's a luxury car payment. So what about the rest of us that are making close to minimum wage? By the way, right now, minimum wage in Florida is $12 an hour. And the only reason why it's $12 an hour is because through a ballot initiative, we set it to increase to $15 an hour by 2026. And that's nowhere near what we need. And yet, now they expect us to cough up all this money for these medications. You have a mother here and a father that had to put out $1,000 just for a kid's medication. And they have to fear they have to pay because their kid taking off the Medicare rolls, the Medicaid rolls. Now they have to cough up that money that they don't have because they don't want their kid to die. Here come the pro-lifers. Oh my God, we care about the kids. We care about the kids. Save the children. Prove it. And you liberals, you guys ain't getting off the hook either. Because you guys will say, oh my God, healthcare is a human right. Prove it. Because if you actually thought that healthcare is a human right, you guys would be getting people out there in the streets right now. But you don't believe it either. So you got two groups that don't believe that healthcare is a human right. Liberals and conservatives. This is why we talk about leaving the both parties. This is why you have to leave the duopoly, because neither one of them believe in actually having healthcare as a human right in the state, in this country.
May, Jillian and her husband Rocky say they found out their daughter had unexpectedly lost her healthcare coverage. Just as states began to roll back pandemic-era protections, removing millions from their rolls.
When did you learn that Penelope lost coverage?
My occupational therapist texted me and said she's no longer on our Medicaid list. She's been dropped. And it was just like, this has to be a mistake.
What was going through your mind? I eventually had a complete breakdown. Like the day you called, I was crying all day. It was just so overwhelming. It's so defeating. My whole life is taking care of her. I'm her caretaker. And I felt like a bad mom. Like, oh my, like she'll get less care because she doesn't have insurance. And that's the truth.
Job.
I'm so grateful for Medicaid because of,
we couldn't do
we
it.
couldn't do it. We
Yeah,
couldn't do it.
It would be impossible.
Jillian is a registered nurse, but
Now, the reason why I'm showing this is because I want people to really think about the human aspects of this. There's a great movie that I'm not sure if all of you have seen. It stars Denzel Washington. It's called John Q. If you have not watched that movie, I highly recommend that you do, because it really puts a mirror against the healthcare system in this country. Imagine how these parents feel. If you're a parent, imagine how they feel. where you cannot afford your kids' medical expenses. And is it their fault that their kid is sick? Is it the kid's fault that they were born, that they so happen to be born to parents that don't make that much money? And the last thing you heard was the mom is a registered nurse and they're struggling. Now, some people would be like, well, they just need to spend their money better. Oh, I thought she did all the right things by going to school. I thought she did all the right things by getting an education. She's in a very respected field. She's an RN. And yet she can't afford the expenses to take care of her child because of her child having a chronic illness. And yet now you're going to say, well, they would need to spend their money better. I'm telling y'all, this is why I'm a communist, y'all. Yep. Ooh, boy. Not to get me riled up. All right, let's continue.
Couldn't do it.
It would be impossible.
Jillian is a registered nurse, but she says the insurance process has been difficult to navigate, spending hours on the phone trying to get answers.
Do you know why Penelope was kicked off of her coverage?
Ultimately, I don't. They didn't even tell me that I was dropped. I didn't, and I went through all of my letters to see where I was dropped, and there was absolutely not a single letter in my profile online.
You've gotten no answer.
No answers whatsoever.
Across the country, federal officials estimate at least 1.5 million Americans have lost their Medicaid coverage since April. For the last 3 years, states were barred from kicking people off the program. That's all changed now that the pandemic-era rules have been lifted, and it's sparking confusion across the nation. In Tallahassee, Liz Adams says her 7-year-old son in remission for leukemia was dropped with no explanation.
We went 6 months back into our emails and our spam, and there was nothing. There was no notifications from them at all. Emotionally, it's been taxing, to say the least.
In Gravette, Arkansas, Allison Corder says by the time she found a mailed notice from the state, her and her son were already uninsured.
I've moved since then. I've gotten a million letters in the mail, and it's just really confusing what they're wanting from me.
And in Clay County, Florida.
That's another thing. I'm going to repeat what she said.
Gotten a million letters in the mail, and it's just really confusing what they're wanting from me.
And
a lot of times these processes are so convoluted and they want so many different details that it determines whether you're eligible or not. Like, for instance, let's say you have a retirement account, right? Let's say you have a 401k or something like that. And let's say your 401k, let's say you saved up like $60,000 for retirement so far. Guess what? If you apply for Medicaid, you have to report that. And that may make you ineligible, even though you're saving for retirement. To them, it's like, well, you can access that money and you can use that to pay the expenses. Come to us when you have no retirement left and no money left, and then we'll help you. But then guess what? Now your retirement's gone because you had to pay one expense that was $55,000, and now you have no retirement left over. So then by the time you retire or you get to retirement age, you have to keep working because you have to take that money out. And by the way, if it's a 401k, you also get a penalty. So you don't get to take all that money out because the government, by taxes, will take some of that money out too. So then you're left with no retirement, having to work until you die, and Who got all that money? Big Pharma got all that money. The medical industrial complex got all that money. All for you to not even be able to live the rest of your life after you worked so hard all that time. Yes, that's how it works. They want to know how much your car is worth. They want to know how many assets you got. It's all, and that's because it's means tested. It is crazy. And don't have a lot of money in your savings account. You better not have a savings account with more than one zero. If it's a number followed by 2 zeros, oh, they're going to be looking at you like, why you got that much money in your account? That's how it works. How do I know? I've been involved with Medicaid since I was a little boy. I've been through the process. Medicaid and food stamps. That's how they look at you. They look at you they go through you with a fine-tooth comb. And you better have that stuff in on time, or you get axed. It's not fair, man.
In Clay County, Florida, Marnie Harvage says her 13-year-old daughter, Cassidy, who relies on a ventilator to breathe, was almost kicked off of Medicaid prematurely.
It's insane. Not only are you fighting to keep them insured, you're fighting to keep them alive.
These families, all part of the 15 million Americans who could lose coverage as states begin tightening the rules. The problem, with such a big undertaking, Medicaid officials estimate half of those Americans could be dropped by mistake.
7 million people who are eligible to receive Medicaid could still actually lose their coverage. Why?
See what happens when you means test? This is what happens when you means test. Because then there's certain people who are ineligible and then people who may get dropped by mistake. If healthcare is a human right, it should not be means tested. And here we are. And then you'll get some people who fall by the wayside.
Why is that happening?
So that is one of the pieces I mentioned that is a paramount concern to us, and why it's been a how do we move heaven and earth moment over the past 2 years. We should not accept that as success or how we think about what we're trying to achieve is. We need to make sure we do everything, federal, state, the private sector, other partners, to keep everybody eligible, enrolled.
Daniel Son.
The private sector, see, this is the problem with people in this position. The private sector does not care about keeping you enrolled because their job is to deny you while you keep paying them premiums, while you pay deductibles. That's how they make their money, because they don't actually want to pay for your health care. This is why healthcare needs to be taken out of private hands. And by taking it out of private hands, I also mean taking money out of politics so that it's no longer influenced. It's no longer influencing public policy. Healthcare should no longer be commodified whatsoever. We need a full nationalization of our healthcare industry now, yesterday, ahora. That's what we need. And you're going to have people like this guy hand-wringing about, oh, we're trying to do the best we possibly can. You can't do that much if your boss isn't pushing for it. Who is their boss? Joseph Biden.
I is a director at CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the federal agency overseeing the process. He says procedural errors, misnotices, and confusion are all in part to blame for eligible recipients losing coverage. CMS says it has been pushing states to streamline the process.
And a lot of the strategies and options we've been putting on the table are options for states to help be able to do more upfront automated renewals.
Are some states resistant toward that change?
There's more to do. And indeed, some states have taken us up on every option and strategy that we put on the table.
For the states that are not following these guidelines, what action is being taken?
If we find that even with the best intentions or not, if the federal rules are not being followed, folks should expect us to take and use every lever at our disposal.
At least 25 states so far have started disenrolling people from Medicaid. Florida dropping 303,000. Arkansas, some 110,000.
This is a really heavy lift. We see mistakes are made. Families don't get the letter. They don't understand the letter. They have a hard time getting help.
In an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Arkansas's Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders says, "We're simply removing ineligible participants from the program to reserve resources for those who need them and follow the law." But advocates in...
Hang on. Because here's my thing. If we had a fully nationalized healthcare system, the states wouldn't need to pay for it. That means people wouldn't need to be kicked off the rolls. If we had a fully nationalized healthcare system, we wouldn't need Medicaid in the first place. Hell, we wouldn't even need a healthcare insurance program. If it's fully nationalized, then there you go. Everybody gets healthcare. Everybody. No tiers. Not one person having more than another. No premiums, no deductibles, no co-pays. All you got to do is just pay your taxes. And if you're the type of person that's like, well, I don't want to pay more in taxes. All right, then slash the military budget. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That's all we got to do. Slash the military budget. Boom. There you go. It's not that hard. The people who make it hard are the people that don't want you to actually have it. That's who makes it hard. And I know some people going, oh, Jaybe, you want the government to run healthcare? You want the corporations to run healthcare? And I'm not saying that I want the government to be running healthcare while the corporations are puppeting the government. No, I'm saying get money out of politics, get rid of the corruption, and have the people actually running the government instead of the corporations owning our government. That's the whole reason why we're in this mess in the first place, because the corporations own it. Government is like a hammer. Whether you put it in the hands of a maniac, a maniacal murderer, or you put it in the hands of a builder, depends on how that hammer is used. I am not going to put a hammer in the hands of a Charles Manson. No. Now, if you give that hammer to Bob Vila, for some of us that are that age, right? Then okay, you feel safer, right? Charles Manson with a hammer, Bob Vila with a hammer. Which one shall we choose? Stop putting the hammer in the hands of a Charles Manson. Who's that? The corporate overlords, the corporate dictators, the predator class. That's the Charles Manson that you're putting a hammer in the hands of. Versus you put it in the hands of a Bob Vila, then you might just get a nice birdhouse. You might just get an extra bedroom. You might just get some crown molding. You might get a brand new deck built in your backyard. But only if you actually take that hammer out of the hands of the axe murderer. That's how government works. Government is a tool. Whoever wields it in the way that they wish. So when people go, oh my God, government's the problem. Look, you know how y'all love to say guns don't kill people, people kill people? Governments don't harm people. The people who actually are behind running the government, that's the problem. Y'all need to get out of that Reagan plantation mindset. Let's continue.
And experts are concerned that potentially thousands, especially children, are slipping through the cracks.
We know that the vast majority of children who may lose coverage during this process will remain eligible for Medicaid.
Florida's Department of Children and Families says it has developed a robust outreach campaign, including up to 13 direct contact attempts to recipients who do not submit a timely application. While the state declined to comment on Penelope's case due to privacy concerns, a spokesperson maintained everyone that is removed from Medicaid receives a final notice informing them the reason for termination. But Jillian and Rocky say they are still looking to the state of Florida for answers. After several weeks of calls and working with an advocacy group, they were finally able to get their daughter Penelope back on Medicaid, at least until the end of the review process.
Penelope now is covered through March of next year. Is that temporary relief? Do you fear that she could still lose her coverage in a year?
Hang on. The review process. Do you know how much money that costs just to pay people to review each case? Instead of just nationalizing and giving everybody health care, you wouldn't need to have all those caseworkers, all those people in administrative. You wouldn't need them. Like John Q said in the movie, sick, help. Sick, help. Why are we paywalling it?
Or waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't trust it because if this can happen, it can happen again.
Right. It's just very simple questions and still don't have answers. No one still knows why. I mean, someone denied it. They don't know why. No one's held accountable.
An absolute nightmare for those parents and so many families. Our thanks to Rachel Scott for that eye-opening report.
So this is why it is so important that we focus on what we can do when it comes to things like this. Now, a couple of years back, we did the March for Medicare for All. That was great to raise awareness for people who want to push for healthcare for everybody. There are things that can be done. The long game is building community with other people, joining different organizations. I actually talked about this yesterday on my channel. Joining organizations so that you can find like-minded people in order to build dual power. There's also the option of citizen ballot initiatives. Now, I actually talked about this and I shared the website a couple weeks back on the Savvy and Jaybe show, where it talks about how citizen ballot initiatives are brought about, what they are, and what they mean. So citizen ballot initiatives can be a way to mitigate the damage that's done to those of us who are workers and also give us more power because it's direct democracy. You're not depending on a politician to get anything done. You are actually circumventing the politician, going outside of them in order to actually affect the law from the voter perspective. And so that's another way of getting it done, is through citizen ballot initiatives. Now, different states have more freedom when it comes to ballot initiatives than others. And I think I have that that site. Let's see if I have that website. I'll find it. But my point is, that's another way that you can actually push for something. So, doing work on the ground, building dual power, as well as doing something through ballot initiatives. So that's something that we can do in the interim. So that's, we all know how horrible it is, but let's not kid ourselves in thinking it's just the government by itself. It's who's behind the government. It is not us. Because if it was us, a lot of things would be different, right? Look, take a look at Florida. What did Florida do? Florida passed a law where it allowed people who are formerly incarcerated to be able to vote after they've served their time. What did the Florida legislature do? They put economic barriers in front of those people who are formerly incarcerated, because they do not want people who know what it's like to be victims of the carceral system to vote. They don't want them to have that power. But through a citizen ballot initiative, we, the voters, said, oh, yeah, they served their time. Yeah, they should be able to vote again. Give them that right again. But the legislator, the executive branch of the state of Florida, they didn't like that. So guess what? They undermined it. Because who is behind them? The corporate dictators, the predator class. That's who's behind them. Imagine if the predator class and the corporate dictators were not behind them. What if it was us? They'd be able to vote again. A lot of things would be different. Our free speech wouldn't be hindered by people like DeSantis. But because a lackey, a corporate lapdog, guess what? He's going to do with the corporation what the landlords want. He's going to do what the real estate developers want. That's who he is. So ultimately, we have to build dual power that's outside of the system, as well as use our tools as our advantage to mitigate the damage to those of us who are workers in this system. So that's basically it. Go ahead and give the stream a like. This pushes us out into the algorithm. Thank you so very much for that. Now, going to give a shout out to all the people who are doing the work. Shout out to Nick, CJ, Rome, and Savvy. Also, shout out to our our graphics designer. If you guys would like to donate to our graphics designer, you guys go to Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout or Cash App $Mutual Aid Forever. thank you so very much to Aaron for the work that you do in making the clips for us. It means the world. So also just wanted to give a shout out to the patrons on Patreon. But without you guys, we would not be able to do this work. This is deeply important because, well, hey, we would not be able to be in front of you right now. You guys are literally keeping the lights on. And as we continue to do this work and informing and trying to help activate people to get out into the streets, this type of support is deeply important to all of us because, well, let's be real. We need more people speaking out, and we need people out in the streets in order to be able to change the future and improve it. And, you know, I am so heartened by, especially what we're going to be talking about soon next, is that what is about to happen, you know, what's happening in colleges, where I'll be talking about soon, it is absolutely necessary for us to get more of the word out and also to help educate more so that people know not only that everything's bad, which is easy, but showing them how it's bad, why it's bad, and what we can do to actually improve it by our own power instead of depending on a savior, whether that savior is a politician or that savior is someone that is one single person, right? It has to come from all of us collectively. So thank you so very much to the patrons on Patreon for that. I'm going to go to the comments in the chat, and then we'll move on to our next story. Let's go to Rockfin. All righty then. Oh, did I? Oh, I did the wrong one. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. False start. Holding. All right. So Hemcar says they're so weak they have to censor everyday people, not just people with open secret, sensitive info, and classified stuff. Good to see it, Animairs and Hemcar. Roger Mill says you asked who to have on for an interview. I just figured it out. Laura from Red Berets, who is from Washington State, a state like Florida with no state income tax. They figure out how to pay for single payer, copay, what they're doing, and run that as an initiative. No more talk of taxes paying for things when it comes to federal government programs. Break bad habit. Congress legislates new money into existence and appropriates it, plus allows banks to print. I think this is the one I was talking about. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Roger. You came in clutch. I appreciate it. So this is the site that Roger had originally referred me to, that I shared about how citizen ballot initiatives get on the ballot. In fact, you know what? Let me read that really quick, just as a refresher, so you guys know exactly how it works. All right. Because I want to help educate you guys if you guys don't know. So this is from the Council of State of Governments. This is how ballot measures get on the ballot. It says when voters take to the polls, they not only vote on political candidates, but also ballot measures. Most voters don't know where they stand on these measures, but how much thought is given to how they made it onto the ballot in the first place. Says one must first define a ballot measure. A ballot measure is a proposed law, issue, constitutional amendment, or question that appears on a statewide or local ballot for voters of a jurisdiction to vote on. In the United States, a ballot measure can make it onto the ballot through one of three means: citizen initiative, legislative referral, or automatically in some states. Each state has different different requirements to get an issue to appear on the ballot. However, most ballot measures are placed on the ballot through citizen initiatives or legislative referrals. So this actually shows where each one has. So you have citizen initiated ballot measures. Says the citizen initiative process allows citizens to propose a constitutional or statutory amendment or a veto referendum for inclusion on a ballot. This can be achieved through direct or indirect means, both of which require citizens to collect a specified number of signatures prior to being placed on the ballot. Citizen-initiated ballot measures were first adopted by South Dakota in 1898. Since then, 26 states and the District of Columbia have adopted the citizen initiative process as a valid means to place an issue before the public for a vote. More specifically, and then it talks about how the states vary. So you have direct initiative. Says the citizen-initiated ballot measure can be placed on the ballot through direct initiatives. Direct initiatives can be placed on the ballot as a state statute, constitutional amendment, or veto referendum. Placing a measure on the ballot through direct initiative entails the following steps. Then you have the steps on how it works. Then you also have ones about veto referendum, indirect initiative, legislatively referred ballot measures, and an automatic referred ballot measures. So this is basically a crash course in how they work. This is a way to circumvent the politicians. So if you guys would like to, I'm putting that also in the chat. Thank you so very much to Roger Meadows for that. So yeah, that's the one I was actually looking for. Roger coming in clutch once again. Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. Okay. Now, thank you for that. Yes, you definitely got me, Roger. Roger says the way a state public bank operating in a state with no state income taxes would collect revenue to pay back the infrastructure loan lent out would be through tolls and bus fees and utility rates provided by the government. Yes, that actually I talked about how public banks work on my channel. If you guys would like to, you guys can also go to that. I spoke to two people, Alfecca Maturity and Nelson Betancourt. Nelson Betancourt is actually trying to implement a county-wide public bank here in Florida, in Orange County. So that was a great conversation, and I'm going to try to have them both back on because I think it's an important conversation to have about public banks as well. So thank you so very much for that. Let's go to the rest of the chat. Mouse says, sorry, we can't approve the coverage you've been paying us 4 years for. Our CEO wanted a new yacht. Yep, that is how it works. Because the CEOs and the shareholders, they want that dividend check, and they want that dividend check to go up. So that's why they deny you coverage. That's right. So Junior, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. It says, well, I just did, but I ruined it. It says, who knows about the deep state? It seems to me more a euphemism that imperialism uses, a group of corrupted or compartmentalized public servants. I mean, ultimately, really is, yeah, I mean, it's just really the alphabet bureaucracies that are used against the American people and under the guise of protecting our freedoms or protecting the homeland, when in reality it's protecting corporations from being held accountable. That's ultimately what it is. It's not actually for us, it's for them. It's to protect corporations. And some of these alphabet bureaucracies will go outside the country in order to protect the corporations from outside entities that are trying to keep them from taking over their country and extracting their resources. And then they also do it here in the United States. Terry Hinton says it takes years to just get approved from Social Security Department. Yes, and Social Security will deny you automatically most cases. It depends also on your disability, but a lot of times they will deny you, and they will deny you over and over and over until you give up, because giving up is the goal, because they don't actually want to give it to you. Casey Sarnomsky says privacy concerns are only concerns where the situation makes them look bad. That's part of it. It is convenient, but it also can be a HIPAA violation. You know, so unfortunately, you know, it's like, yeah, you're kind of right. But at the same time, it can also be a HIPAA violation. You know, you got to, you know, you don't want to reveal some stuff too. So, and yes, everything's been monetized, even homelessness. Yeah. Rando online says that's another issue. They don't hold individuals accountable. They always blame organizations as a whole. Yep. Great Teen says the Democrats are the Democrat John Wayne Casey's and the Republicans are the Lindsey Grahams. Hell, Lindsey Graham is a mix between a wannabe John Wayne and Richard Summons. Lucy Bell says Social Security Administration nearly killed me with that backlog appeal process. Made me homeless, destitute, and even more hopelessly disabled. More chronic pain. I know I'm one of the lucky ones still alive. Oh. That's a whole other animal. Social Security. But it's made that way to prevent people from actually using it. So Junior says direct democracy on policies, not parties. Apparently the founding fathers did not like parties. No wonder education has been dumbed down. Oh, of course, they didn't want to actually a fully educated populace. They never wanted that. Let me see. All right. Shima says Biden supporters kept saying that the economy is great and people need to stop complaining. They keep saying that the poor make too many bad decisions. Who does that sound like to you, Chima? It sounds like the right, doesn't it? Sounds like the people that will blame you for blame the individual for a systemic problem, right? Chima, I know you nodding your head. Yeah, you and me, we here. Golly, man. Thank you so very much for that. Thank you for the super chat. Yes, and adding to that, Joe Anthony says bad choices alone do not address the rot in the system. Yes. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Mr. Meebzor says, just like the antidepressant scam. I think there is a necessity for antidepressants and things like that because some people may actually legitimately have that issue. But there are some people that are pushed to accept a sick system when mentally and emotionally they are just reacting to a system that is unhealthy and not conducive for human survival. Do you know what I mean? It's like some will get you to try to accept the system as normal when in reality your heart and mind know this is not normal. This is not something that is healthy for any of us. But you're being told to, and sometimes medicated to, accept it. I say sometimes because that's not all the time. Because number one, I'm not a medical professional. Do not take medical advice from me. But what I'm saying is that because Big Pharma also owns a lot of the medications when it comes to mental health, profit is also going. But at the same time, they also still have to do things that are somewhat helpful, right? If not, then nobody would be using them at all. So they still have to be kind of helpful, but at the same time, they're still exploiting you. It's the same thing with cereal. It has to be edible, and it can't make everybody sick, or else they will go out of business. So they have to still kind of toe that line. But they still do exploitation. But that's a whole nother conversation that we can get into some other time. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the next story. Woo, boy, it's about to get, it's getting intense out there. Next story. Columbia students ignite more college protests nationally. Ooh, wee. I think it's safe to say that colleges are no longer seen as these liberal bastions of these liberal paradises that conservatives seem to think they are. There has been massive protests for the I think it's the four nights in a row where Columbia students have been protesting about what's going on in Gaza. But unfortunately, Columbia has also been arresting students for merely protesting. I want to start off with this has been going on for a while, but it's been coming more to a head in the last few months, especially since October 7th. There was a young woman that was slated to give the valedictorian speech in USC. Let me see. Okay. The young woman, Asna Tabassum, was slated to actually give her valedictorian speech. She was held back from giving the valedictorian speech because she is Muslim. So I want to go into that first, and then we'll go into Colombia.
Campaign. Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez and I interviewed Asna Tabassum, who is a first-generation South Asian American Muslim, on Wednesday. I began by welcoming her to Democracy Now!
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So why don't you give us the chronology of what happened? I mean, to be the valedictorian of this elite university, the University of Southern California, is such an enormous achievement. Can you talk about when you learned you'd become the valedictorian and when you learned
during commencement? Call, I believe, in the second week of March or so. It was during Ramadan, and I was incredibly happy to receive the honor and incredibly grateful. And that was the moment I also knew that I would have the chance and the opportunity to address my peers during commencement.
And when did you hear that the university had changed its mind, and who contacted you?
Of course. So I was contacted by the administration on Monday, actually, this past Monday, shortly before the statement was released, that I would unfortunately no longer be allowed to give the commencement address for the class of 2024.
How typical is that, Asna? Does the valedictorian always give the speech?
Yes, as far as I know in history of USC, and in fact, I asked the provost this himself, has this ever happened to a USC valedictorian? And in fact, I think we both agreed that to the best of our knowledge, it has never happened before.
And what exactly did he say when he explained to you it was for safety reasons? Did he talk to you about what the threats are?
My question is, safety for whom? Safety for her? Ask these questions, y'all.
So that's exactly the question here, is that I received no details as to what the security threats or what the security concerns were. I heard that there were hundreds and thousands of emails sent to the university, but I was given no clue as to what the contents of these emails were, as well as, for example, the university had said that there were other security concerns in relation to having a big event such as commencement, but even details there were unclear. And so when I had asked for details regarding the security concerns, for example, were they security concerns about me or my classmates, I was offered no information and was told it was not appropriate for me to know.
Now, were you aware that pro-Israel student groups were targeting you on social media? That a group called We Are Tav posted a photo of you on its Instagram account and claimed that you were, quote, you openly promote anti-Semitic writings?
It's honestly heartbreaking. Yes, once I was announced on social media through USC student media, it only took a few hours before such posts began circulating. And it launched a very generalized and honestly very hateful and disappointing campaign to remove me as valedictorian, yes.
I want to go to...
So ultimately, it was Zionists. They didn't want her to speak. If it had been anybody else that wasn't Muslim, that was valedictorian, this wouldn't be an issue. To me, sounds like Islamophobia. Sounds like hatred, right? So that's what happened with her. And in doing so, this is causing a lot of colleges now to be questioned, especially when it comes college presidents to be in regards to their views on free speech, their views on how speech is handled within these universities. So the president of Colombia was actually asked about anti-Semitism at a House committee. And so let's take a look here.
Are mobs shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, or long live the Imtada? Are those anti-Semitic comments?
When I hear those terms, I find them very upsetting. And I have heard.
It is not anti-Semitic, by the way. Number one, Palestinians are Semites. So it's not anti-Semitic. Number two, to want freedom from occupation. How is freedom from occupation considered upsetting, but being an occupier is somehow okay? Let's go back and hear, to what she says. Go back just a couple of seconds.
When I hear those terms, I find them very upsetting. And I have heard.
That's a great answer to a question I didn't ask. So let me repeat the question. When mobs or people are shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free, or long live the Intifada, are those anti-Semitic statements? Yes or no? It's not how you feel. It's.
I hear them as such. Some people don't.
Ma'am, it's clear that you are folding to pressure from Zionists. Wow.
We have sent a
So is it
clear
yes?
message.
So are mobs shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, or long live the Intifada? Are those anti-Semitic comments?
When I.
So, yeah, the president of Colombia definitely dropped the ball on that one. But that's because that the presidents of these universities are being driven by Zionists. And so here is what they've been doing against the Palestinian students. Sorry, the students who've been protesting for Palestine. This is from Code Pink. It says, for months, Colombia's administration have been repressing and punishing students organizing for justice in Palestine. After Congress pushed the university president to crack down even harder yesterday, they're sending the NYPD to shut down students' solidarity encampment. And so here is that video.
Stay strong!
my question is, do they have free speech or not? Do these students have it? Because if these students actually have free speech, then the need for police to come out there is really unnecessary, at least in my eyes. So last week, there was well over 100 pro-Palestine protesting students at Columbia that were arrested. It says Columbia University protest over 100 pro-Palestine demonstrators, including Representative Ilhan Omar's daughter, was arrested. There's more than 100 pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia University were arrested on Thursday afternoon, and an on-campus tent encampment was removed after the school's president gave New York Police Department the green light to clear the protesters. The demonstrators have occupied Columbia's South Lawn for over 30 hours in violation of the university's rules and did not leave despite numerous warnings. It says Columbia President Nimat Minouche Safik announced in a letter to the Columbia community Thursday that she has authorized the New York Police Department to clear demonstrators from campus. Said, this morning, I had to make a decision that I hope would never be necessary. Quote, I regret that all these attempts to resolve the situation were rejected by students involved. As a result, NYPD officers are now on campus and the process of clearing the encampment is underway. She said, I've always said that our safety of our community was my top priority, and that we need to preserve the environment where everyone could learn in a supportive context, end quote. So, this is what happened. Isra Hirsi, the daughter of Representative Ilhan Omar, was among those arrested for trespassing. It will be getting a summons. So it says Hirsi said that she was among several students suspended from Columbia University for participating in pro-Palestine protests, a development that emerged a day after her mother and other members of the House Committee on Education and the Workforce grilled the school's president about growing anti-Semitism on the campus. So we're going to take a look at that too, because I think that's also really important to take a look at what Ilhan was questioning the same Columbia president. So let's take a look at that. And just as a reminder, Ilhan Omar has been accused of being anti-Semitic as well.
I wanted to get a clarification earlier. One of my colleagues asked you, have you seen anti-Muslim protests on campus?
I have seen, we have had pro-Israeli demonstrations on campus.
No. But Arabs?
No, I have not.
Have you seen one against Palestinians?
No, I have not.
Have you seen one against Jewish people? Have you seen a protest saying we are against Jewish people?
No, I have seen.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. So she haven't. So what's the problem? Because according to her, and according to the last House committee member, she asked if they're chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and long live the Antifada, that's considered to her to be anti-Semitic. If that's the case, then wouldn't that classify as an anti-Jewish protest? But she just told Ilhan Omar, well, no, I haven't seen any anti-Jewish protests. So which one is it? Apparently, she only said yes because guess what? She folded. She folded under pressure. Because truth be told, saying that is not anti-Semitic. Let's continue.
Thank you for that clarification. There has been a rise in targeting and harassment against anti-war protesters because it's been pro-war and anti-war protesters is what it seems like, correct?
Correct. There has
Okay,
been.
thank you. Activists on campus, including Jewish students, Black and Brown, Arab and Muslim students. How many of organizations that were canceled in Colombia involved Jewish students?
One of the organizations is called Jewish Voices for Peace.
Yes, and encompassed of Jewish students?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There was a...
So yes, they actually canceled a Jewish group called Jewish Voices for Peace that were protesting on behalf of Palestinians. So when it comes to Jewish voices, if they're pro-Israeli, they get to stay. But if they're pro-Palestine, that's when they get canceled. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this up, man.
On the democratic rights of students across the country. I was appalled to learn that in April, Colombia suspended and evicted 6 students for their involvement in the pro-Palestinian panel event on campus. It happened that all 6 students were arbitrarily targeted after the university brought in a team of private and former police investigators. These investigators harassed, intimidated Palestinian students at their homes, demanding to see students' private text messages and sent threatening emails to the leaders of those pro-Palestinian groups. I would like to ask you to speak a little bit more to this situation and ask you if you guys have utilized private former police investigators before, or is this the first time?
So this was a very serious case. We had students who on an online inciting violence, and that is unacceptable. And so we needed to get to the bottom of it. And so that's why we brought private investigators along with notifying
how
the
secure
FBI.
were you these students that you evicted and suspended were involved? Did you do any investigation? Was there a hearing?
They refused to cooperate with the investigation. And so until they do so, they are suspended.
Okay, thank you. And then in January, there was an incident involving students that were protesting, that were attacked. Many hospitalized, a lot of them did not receive support from the school administrators. Can you speak to what is happening with the investigation, if you all are cooperating, and why weren't the students provided any support after they've experienced that attack?
So this is still with the police. And as far as we know, we think it was an odorous substance, and we did reach out to all of those students who said they were affected. Many of them didn't want support. We also
it took you guys more than 4 days to reach out to students.
No, I don't believe that's correct.
Okay, will you
actually.
respond? Give me a written response with the fact that you all responded right away to those. Looks like there's been a lot of doxing and harassment.
Sorry, guys. Twitter.
That has taken place. What protections are a student being provided?
We created a doxing resources group to support students. There were many students who were affected by this. Muslim students, Jewish students, and completely, other students. That group has, we had 90 students reach out to that group to get support in terms of both technical support, legal support, privacy scrubbing, and so on.
And before I run out of time, I wanted to ask what do your rules say about professors that harass students online, like Professor Shai Davidar has done, and professors who directly attack you as the president as a coward and a liar?
So, as president, I'm used to being attacked, but attacking our students is unacceptable. And in that case, we've had more than 50 complaints about that professor, and he is currently under investigation for harassment.
What about harassing them via police? It's kind of funny how that's never taken into context. So yes, they actually were attacked really by the university. This is actually, oh gosh. This is actually out of the Times of Israel. It says Columbia University suspends Jewish Voices for Peace, Students for Justice in Palestine. It says school cites infractions culminating in an unauthorized event that included threatening rhetoric and intimidation. Jewish Voices for Peace and Students for Justice in Palestine have held events accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza, which is true. This was back in November. Says suspension runs through the end of the fall semester, about 6 more weeks, and marks a significant crackdown by the school by the two groups, and campuses nationwide have erupted in debate, activism, and occasional violence surrounding the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. By the way, like we have said before many, many times, it is not a war. You have one of the most powerful nuclear armies in the world that is fighting a paramilitary group. It is not a war with the note that is two equal opposing sides. There is not two equal opposing sides. Israel is the one that has been lambasting Palestine, particularly Gaza and Rafah, this entire time, and have killed, I would assume it's more than 40,000 now. So it has been way more than the 1,200 or so that were attacked on October 7th. So it's not a war. It's a genocide. It's an ethnic cleansing. But they don't want to say that. So it says this decision was made after the two groups repeatedly violated university policies relating to holding campus events, culminating in an unauthorized event Thursday afternoon that proceeded despite warnings and included threatening rhetoric and intimidation. And so when they say threatening rhetoric or intimidation, a lot of times it's usually, well, oh my God, they're saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And you got some Zionists that get all their knees knocking and going, oh my God, they're threatening us, when in fact they're not threatening them at all. I'm going to give you guys an example of thinking that is threatening, when in reality, they're not threatening them at all. Let me share this with you guys too. Here we go. Now, I know we're outside of the award show era, but we got to give this young lady an Oscar because, well, she really like put her heart and soul into that performance. She put her heart and soul into it, and now, whew, says this video of some college students literally crying crocodile tears because their pro-Palestinian demonstrating happened. They hysterically demand that the security guards go arrest them all. Perfectly encapsulates Zionism and its depraved cult of fake victimhood. So let's take a look. And the award goes to...
Hello! They want our people dead! They want us killed! And so part of it, how is it allowed? How are you allowing this? Why are you putting us together? They want us dead! Please end it, please!
Why can't they just go up there?
Hello! They want our people dead!
Oh my God! While I have my caramel macchiato, they want us dead. Oh my goodness. I'm suffering right now. Can't you see? I'm suffering right now. No, it doesn't have regular milk. It has oat milk. Oh my gosh. Meanwhile, there are kids, babies that are literally being saved out of their mother's womb because their mothers are dead right now. And she gets to sit there with her Starbucks and cry about how, oh my God, they want us dead because they actually want the Palestinians to get their land back. You see how it works, right? Also, I'm going to say this. I hope some of y'all don't get offended. But one of the most dangerous substances in this world, it's not lava, it's not hydrochloric acid, it's not broken glass. One of the most dangerous substances in this world is the tears of a white woman. It is. And here she's using her crocodile tears to stop people from peacefully protesting. With Starbucks in hand. So that's the people who feel threatened. Meanwhile, the 3 young Palestinian men, college students in Burlington, Vermont, were shot, and nearly killed. One was paralyzed. And how many Arab and Muslim students are saying, oh my God, they want us gone? How many of them are saying that? Did anybody ever bring up about the 6-year-old Muslim boy, Palestinian boy, that was stabbed 26 times in Chicago? Has anybody talked about that since? We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about whose lives are threatened. Let's be honest. Now, I'm not saying that real anti-Semitism does not exist. It does. There are a lot of white people that are using this as a means to be truly, actually anti-Semitic and anti-Semitic. Calling for the freedom of Palestinians is not one of those. The real anti-Semites don't like Jews or Muslims. They don't like Jewish people or Arabs. Those are the real anti-Semites. So I think it's important that we take that into consideration. But we also have to be very careful to not mix Zionism and Judaism. Judaism is a religion. Zionism is a political ideology. We have to be careful also when it comes to talking about this issue and make sure that we point the finger at Zionists, not all Jews. Okay? Because there are a lot of Jewish people that also are against the illegal occupation and apartheid that's happening too. You have groups like Jewish Voices for Peace. That are also fighting against what's going on. So, sure that we keep that in mind too. You have to be careful because we do not want to fight or put in danger our comrades that are also against this settler colonial state who happen to be Jewish. Right? Got to be careful with that. This is why I make the distinction. So let me share this also with you guys too. Just to let you guys know. So it's almost 3 p.m. right now, but I just want to share this with you guys while I have you all here. This is from the People's Forum. It says, the students at Columbia says spark that ignited a movement for Palestine everywhere, and we will keep going. The movement only continues to grow. New York City, join us tomorrow, which is today, April 21st at 12 p.m. That's about 3 hours ago at the gates of Columbia University to join with the brave students who are paving the way for justice at 115th and Broadway. There are student organizing encampments and mobilizations, sparking a flame with momentum for a liberated Palestine all over the world. Palestine will be free. So this is what's happening. So if you're in New York or the tri-state area, that's where they are right now. So if you guys decide to leave watching the stream and go, I understand. But this is growing. And by growing, I mean it is growing, baby. And it's very promising to see things like this because, you know, hell, even Ilhan Omar's daughter was out there. Let's just share that really quick. Look, even Ilhan Omar's daughter, she was suspended because she dared speak out against what's going on in Palestine. So a lot of people have been paying more attention to what's going on in places like Columbia University. Let me go here. In fact, let me go here. So, who showed up? Well, here we go. Christian Smalls, the Amazon Union president, decided. So he was there. There's more people who attended. That is, that's growing the protests that's going there at Columbia University. And quite frankly, I love to see it. As you know, and as much as some people may not like some of the moves that he made on the campaign trail. I have to give credit to where credit is due. Dr. Cornel West also showed up to Columbia University. So yes, Dr. Cornel West was there. I have to give credit to him for that because that means a lot for a lot of people, right? So he was there as well. I'm hoping if Dr. Jill Stein made it out there. If she did, then that's great too. There's another person that made it out there as well. Here we go. Also in attendance was the Queen of the Universe herself and beloved actress Susan Sarandon. So she was also out there as well. I say Queen of the Universe because apparently she got a lot of blame a few years back. And so we've been calling her, Queen Goddess since then. So, she's been pretty big on a lot of different subjects and a lot of different things. So let's hear what she has to say.
There are many, many people.
There are many, many people
who stand with you.
who stand with you.
You must know that you inspire so many people.
You must know that you inspire so many people.
People who are afraid.
People who are afraid.
People who are old and afraid.
People who are old and afraid.
Are looking to you.
Are looking to you.
And your voices.
And your voices.
And your organization.
And your organization.
And your tenacity.
And your tenacity.
And your kindness.
And your kindness.
To make a difference in this situation.
To make a difference in this situation.
You give me hope.
You give me hope.
To me and so many people.
To me and so many people.
And in the end, the truth will win.
And in the end, the truth will win.
So there she is, Susan Sarandon, there and accounted for it. I absolutely love to see it. By the way, that Simpsons jacket was fire. I wish I can tell her that myself. That Simpson jacket was fire though. But yes. And then also friend to the channel, Professor Anthony Zinkas, also posted this as well. I think Savvy had him on Friday evening. I wasn't able to catch it because I had dialysis, but he was there as well. This is what he showed.
I promise you.
History will remember you.
History will remember you.
Brave students.
Brave students.
Stood up.
Who stood up?
For children in Gaza.
For children in Gaza.
Mothers in Gaza.
For mothers in Gaza.
Fathers in Gaza.
For fathers in Gaza.
I promise you.
I promise you.
The brave people in Gaza.
That the brave people in Gaza
will remember you.
will remember you.
So thank you very much to Professor Zinkas for that. And let me share this as well. So here's what the government, the government puppets are saying this really smacked me. It was, yeah, it's horrible.
Israel is a critical ally of ours, and I think most people understand the necessity of this funding. They're fighting for their very existence. They're the only stable democracy in the Middle East. I mean, of course, there's, for those of us who are believers, it's a biblical admonition to stand with Israel. We will, and they will prevail as long as they're with them. And this is an important, very important symbolic gesture and a very important replenishment of their stockpiles, for example, of the Iron Dome. The reason they shot down all those drones and missiles in the last attack by Iran is because we assisted with that. I think the American people understand the importance of that.
Isn't there supposed to be a separation between church and state? Why are we going by biblical admonitions? This is the Speaker of the House, y'all. They're literally trying to turn the United States into a theocracy. Same thing as Israel. Israel is essentially a settler colonial ethno-state. And he's not the only one. Here's another one. This guy goes just full ham.
It's pretty clear it was a covenant that God made with Abraham. And that covenant was real clear. If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you. And then in the New Testament, it was confirmed that all nations would be blessed through you. So you do not know about that.
I have heard that now that you've explained it. Yes, I have heard that
it's
before.
now familiar. Do you consider that a serious issue? I mean, do you want Columbia University to be cursed by God of the Bible?
Definitely not.
Okay.
What if she's not a Christian? What if she doesn't believe in the Abrahamic God? Then you can't believe that they can be either nor blessed nor cursed. Because you dare allow a genocide to continue? See what happens when you don't separate church and state? See what happens? They will use their religion as a means for justifying genocide. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Now, let's find Columbia University around the world. And so I want to share also other locations that are also happening right now at different universities. So Columbia is spreading its influence, and a lot of people are now starting to see that we need to get out in the streets. Here's Yale.
If you leave tonight and you come back tomorrow and resume your protest, that's good. So it's up to you. It's your decision. No shame either way. But I might ask someone in this scenario, what do we tell the trustees? If there's no justice, there's no peace. What do we tell the trustees? If there's no justice, there's no peace. What do we tell the trustees? If there's no justice. They said, if you leave tonight and you come back tomorrow and resume your protest, that's good.
So they're getting together at Yale. And I also want to share another university where they're getting together at as well. Let me see. Here it is. And also in London. So this says University College London students on the March for Palestine to protest UCL's complicity with the Israeli military in a genocidal attack on Gaza. They say money and jobs for education, not war and occupation. So here they go. So that's what's also going on even in London. So a lot of it's been happening all over. I also forgot to mention that Professor Norm Finkelstein also showed up to give support to the students at Columbia. It is harrowing to see as so many people are now waking up, and a lot of students, a lot of these young people are waking up to what's going on. And so much so that it's really freaking out a lot of the Zionists. The Zionists are like, oh my God, I thought that they were with the state of Israel. In reality, we're with the oppressed. So this guy is named Dr. Eli David, says, he's quoting the students, and he says, students at Columbia openly chant for genocide of Jews in Israel. That is absolutely not true. That is a lie. Eli David is full of crap when he says that, because ultimately they want the Palestinians to be free. Just because you're asking for freedom of a people doesn't mean you're asking for the extermination of another. So, yeah. So that's what's going on around the country, nationwide, what's going on around the world, all because of what the students at Columbia dared to do. They dared to say, no, we are not to stand for genocide while this continuously happens. And I just got to say, I am actually very proud, because you have to have the guts to be able to do this. You have to have the guts to be able to stand up to the powers that be. Shout out to Status Quo for this footage, because ultimately, like, this is what these kids have been enduring in these college campuses in order to bring to light what's been going on.
Why are you doing this to me? Free college. I'm just standing here. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing it? For what reason? I'm just standing outside. What's wrong with you? What the reason? Why are you doing this to me? I was literally just standing here. What the fuck are you doing? Untense yourself. I'm stuck. You're not. Let me get my.
The protectors of Capitol strike again. But you have to stand up. And that's what these kids are doing. So shout out to the students at Columbia, students at Yale. And I just want to say that you guys are doing the damn thing and bringing attention to what's going on. Now, with that being said, there was a speech that I shared Friday. I think it might have been Friday. That I think is deeply important to show a piece of. Because there was a speech given by a doctor at Spelman College, which is an HBCU. And this speech knocked me her name is Dr. Ruha Benjamin. I shared this on my channel yesterday, but it bears repeating that everything she said is absolutely on point. And so I was so happy I clipped about the last minutes of her speech, because I think it is important that we talk about this. So let me share this, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love this as well. So this is 2001 Spelman College valedictorian Dr. Ruha Benjamin gives the 2024 convocation speech. This is the ending where she speaks about Black faces in high places won't save us. Solidarity with all oppressed people is reflected in this speech. Dr. Benjamin cooked. And so this was wonderful.
Of who we are. Above all else, I want to encourage you to be careful with each other so you can be dangerous together. Complete your studies in workplaces, professions, cities, and experiences. I want to remind you that Spelman is more than a college. It's a flight school, the NASA for Black women, that imparts not only intellectual skills, but the spiritual audacity to fly in and out of worlds that were not created with you in mind. When you feel weighed down, as we all do, I want to encourage you to dust off your wings, sown by generations of Spelman women over the course of 143 friggin' years, so you can fly and be fly. Remember too that despite the social media slogan, trust Black women, you too have to be trustworthy. Black faces in high places are not going to save us. Just look at the Black proponents of Cop City in Atlanta's leadership class. Black faces in high places are not going to save us. Just look at the Black woman's hand. That is, our Blackness and our womanness are not in themselves trustworthy. If we allow ourselves to be conscripted into positions of power that maintain the oppressive status quo, our Blackness and womanness are not themselves trustworthy if we support the occupation of Black neighborhoods with so-called better trained police, or remain silent about the genocide of oppressed peoples around the world funded by our tax dollars. And here, let me please shout out the incredible Spelman students and AUC siblings who have been organizing with Stop Cop City and Justice in Palestine, among many other troublemakers in this room. You all remind us that college is not a waiting room to enter the real world, but that you can start transforming that world right here, right now. It goes without saying, but let me just say it anyway. For student activists speaking out courageously for Palestine and Congo and Haiti and to stop Cop City, they should not be threatened with expulsion, loss of scholarships, or have public safety called on them for protesting. Too often, our institutions celebrate student activists after they've graduated, even giving them honorary degrees. But stifle student activism while we are enrolled.
And that was Dr. Ruha Benjamin, Spelman alumni, speaking out. If you're an alumni of a university, where are you speaking out? I think that's important too. So go ahead and give the stream a like. We're going to go on to the comments, and then I'm going to head on out because I'm hungry. I'm going to move for chicken nuggets, by the way. I don't know about y'all, but I really am in the mood for chicken nuggets right now. But anyways, let's get to the chat. Wasn't that great? That was great. I love that. All right. Let me see. Oh, Roger, hang on. Scroll down to endowments greater than 1 billion, arrange in state alphabetical order. In New York State, we got 10. Okay, so this is a list of endowments from colleges and universities. I will post that in I'll post that in the chat so that other people can see. And then says, he says, don't kill me for my lack of camera skills. I ain't realized until halfway through and self-corrected, but this was outside RFK Shmuley event. Last year, Lucy and Gaijin girl Greg Mad Crab were already inside. Oh, okay. Okay, it's kind of difficult because it's sideways. So yeah, thanks for that, Roger. It's kind of difficult, but it's sideways right now. So thank you very much for that. Let me see. And then hemp car. Oh, what is this? A link. Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh, my stars and straps. All right, let's share this. I don't know what this is, hemp car, but I'm gonna put my trust in you. All right.
always have control. They're piling up bodies.
Oh, we're gonna close out with that one. Sorry, Himkar. I'm not gonna play that right now. We're gonna close out with that one. That's what we're gonna do. Thank you very much for that, Himkar. So stay tuned. We're gonna close out with that one. Let's go to the rest of the chat and talk to everybody. Thank you for the super chat. Justin B, who is a Revolutionary Blackout channel member, says, even with ballot initiatives, state legislators can sometimes interfere with the implementation of the initiative. Still, we absolutely need to push for more ballot initiatives. Absolutely. That's a great point to bring out, Justin. Appreciate it very much as well. Chima says, Nemat Shafiq has always worked for imperialists. She came from rich Egyptian landowners. She has worked for the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and World Bank and Bank of England. So there's a trend. Interesting. Thank you very much for that, Chima. John Fries says, my sense is that the liberal white Zionists believe in their suffering. Could be resolved intergenerational trauma combined with an inability to have a deeper, stronger awareness of colonialism. I think that's a really good point. You know, but at a lot of times they'll see what's happening and they'll make excuses in their mind while people continuously suffer because, you know, in their mind they dehumanize the people whom they're told to dehumanize. It's a propaganda tool. It's indoctrination. Thank you very much. Justin B also says we are being ruled by theocratic fascists. Separation of church and state is a lie. Well, we got to make it the truth. We got to turn it into something that has to be true. That's in my opinion. But thank you so very much for that. Let's go into here. Ooh. Joe Anthony says they are the guard dogs of Capitol. He's talking about the police, hence the dog tags. No disrespect meant, but it's all too apt. Wardy says in the Ontario legislature, the speaker banned the wearing of the keffiyeh on the premises, even though all the parties were against such a move, including, surprisingly enough, Premier Doug Ford. Isn't Doug Ford that dude that was doing, you know, booger sugar? Wasn't he the one that I don't know, maybe. I'm probably wrong. So I'm just asking the question. I love that quote. Be careful with each other so you can be dangerous together. I love that quote. She was so on fire and on point with that one. Let me Trauma Queen says everyone needs to read White Tears, Brown Scars, How White Feminism Betrays Women of Color, a book by Ruby Hamad. Interesting. Thank you so very much for that recommendation. Mr. Meepsor says Zionist tears force us to enact fascist policies. Rando Online says when they say they didn't want support, did they think that maybe they felt uncomfortable and were avoiding getting support out of distrust? That's a good question. Roger Meadows says, even if it were anti-Semitic, that is hate speech, and hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. All these people that stated N-word, and how many of them are being arrested for that or being banned from campus for saying that? Yet, we just have to suck it up as Black people, right? Rules for thee, but not for me. Oh, thank you, Golden Goddess. I'm sorry, the Age of Goddess. I called you Golden Goddess. I'm sorry. Says, thank you, James. I like your passion. Thank you so very much. One person came into the chat one day and said I was too dramatic for RBN. Can't please everybody. Pitchforks are coming says, since the oligarchs control U.S. intelligence via bribes and the intelligence controls the politicians, do we split our efforts or do we open on all fronts? I think you do what you can. I think we open on all fronts. You know, we go where our passion will take us. I think that's where we go. But yeah. So yes, I'm going to head on out because I am way over time. I'm always way over time, but it is what it is. But if you guys have not already, I have a guest coming this Tuesday, so be sure to tune in on my channel for that. I'm a little exhausted. That's why I'm kind of mellow right now, but you know. Also, I'll be doing the continuation of readings on my channel. If you guys would like to, you guys can always go to my channel. I'm reading continuation of Laziness Does. I'm almost done with that book. And then I'm also reading The Will to Change by Bell Hooks on my channel. So I actually am reading that. That's also a really wonderful read. I'm continuing that. So reading Of War and the Spirits by Melodoma Patrice Sommet. So I'll be continuing the reading of that as well. So if you guys would like to, you guys can go to my channel and listen to me read and discuss those as well. So thank you so very much for that. So while in addition to and furthermore, I will be heading on out. I'm going to try to get my hands on some chicken nuggets because I'm in a mood for them. And look, like I always tell everybody, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Yesterday was 420, so y'all knew exactly what to do. Y'all understood the assignment. And if you ain't got them, then watch something funny because joy is revolutionary. And look, support people however you can. These corporations are going to take us all out before they ever allow us to actually have power. So I think it's important that we take out the corporations, the money in politics, and actually empower ourselves as a people. And then on top of that, solidarity with all those students that are protesting. And protesting is a benefit because you get to build community with people who are like-minded to fight for, which is, you know, going under the surface and actually building, organizing, and activating too. So I think that's really important. So with that being said, going to share this and head on out. Everybody, I will see you all in the next one. Mwah! Forehead kisses to every single one of you. Why? Because that's just the kind of guy I am. Thank you to everybody who supports RBN. Thank you to all the patrons on Patreon. And thank you to all the members as well, because without you guys, we would not be able to do this work. You guys are special. And we love you.
Our leaders have control. They're piling up bodies. They're crushing our soul. We want you to notice babies who